Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about a gentleman who has recently been taking the internet by storm. I know I usually don't make this kind of content, but I thought it would be interesting to try it out, and have a laugh as well. So this guy goes by the name of Jeff Taylor, and he's been uploading content since, 2016? Anyways, this Alexander Lukashenko lookalike usually stands in front of a red curtain and talks about issues facing the UK. He usually stands in front of a camera and talks like an AI about mostly immigration and other conservative issues. I just think it's funny that all of his videos look exactly like an AI talking head. So let's check out one of his videos to see what he has to say about immigration.
I'm convinced that the Tories select a few MPs to do the indignant rhetoric for the press and the masses, while the rest of them get on with dismantling the country for the benefit of international interests and big corporate business.
So one of the first issues I have is that how are big corporate businesses benefiting? In real economics, if immigrants make the economy worse, hence making people poorer, this would instead hurt big business, as less people would have less money to spend, which decreases profit overall. You could have said that the government mismanages the economy and immigration, but no. In your mind, Jeff, it has to be a massive conspiracy for everyone to conform to living in pods, drinking soy, and eventually becoming femboys. Yes, I agree that immigration is damaging the economy, but not for the reasons you think, and only slightly. But you have to expand on the reasons for this, Jeff. So for everyone's understanding, I'll go through this with you, Jeff. Just little baby steps. To boost an economy, what countries usually do sometimes is they need a larger population pool that can be taxed. That then increases the gross domestic product and increases the tax revenue, which means more money for government funding. This is especially needed in countries with aging populations and is widely accepted in economics. The issue is, Jeff, if there is no new jobs because businesses are broke and downsizing, that's just going to cause unemployment. And what event in 2016 happened to reduce job opportunities? Brexit, which you voted for.
What did you do with Big Chungus?
Now, you can argue that it was to stop immigration, but knowing our government right now, it's probably not going to stop, even in the future. Even if the government has no resources to accommodate for all of these immigrants. In conclusion, there's no conspiracy theory. It's just incompetent politicians using methods to strengthen the economy without knowing about the resources or taking accountability for them. The next video I'd like to review explains how Islam is apparently taking over British culture. Ooh, how spooky. And according to Jeff here,
So the Labour Party is once again in a mess over anti-Semitism, is it? But crucially, this might have quite far-reaching policy implications for them in the next general election. We've now ended up with a significant and growing proportion of the electorate whose loyalty and interests lie outside of the UK and outside of Christianity. So is it any wonder that candidates have to be found that cater for the needs and the interests of that growing proportion of voters? It's happening before our very eyes. The increasing non-integrated demographic will use the vote to change everything, especially as our borders have been reduced to rubble, allowing ever more newcomers in at an ever-increasing rate. And they will all want to be represented in Westminster and their local councils by people who openly share their beliefs, those who put outside matters above the interests of the UK.
Essentially, the way Jeff uses fear-mongering tactics to distance what he calls locals from people with different faith to them. Now, essentially, what is happening according to Jeff is that the Labour Party is targeting certain demographics to vote for them. Though, throughout history, this has been a strategy many politicians have used before in the past, to alter their policies slightly to benefit certain communities. My argument is this, Jeff. Instead of creating divisions between communities, why not take this opportunity to include them in your parties? Christians and Muslims both advocate for highly conservative values, right? Both groups are heavily centred around tradition and some even against same-sex marriage. Wouldn't uniting the two be more beneficial to adding conservative values? Okay, so another point conservative conspiracy theorists like to make is that in a few years' time, we will all have to conform to Islam and white people will become second-class citizens. This is simply not true, as most deprived areas in London are council estates, which segregate the poor from the rich, causing crime to increase. A lack of job opportunities and proximity to work causes crime in these areas, because no local businesses want to move there. Because of all the low income, businesses tend to move to higher income areas to earn a greater profit. That's just how capitalism works. And it's evident that most people coming into the UK don't have the sufficient funds to move into, let's say, higher income areas. This is not really a case of what culture is right or wrong, but it's a case of how segregation still happens today. It is evident billions of the UK's funding is spent fighting a proxy war we have no involvement in, rather than providing economic immigrants to settle in the UK. And now this is coming from a person who believes that British citizens, whether fully British or second-generation immigrant, should be provided with infrastructure first, before new people are allowed in. This is common sense. Hamas is violent, yes, but if the Palestinians weren't segregated and were fully Israeli citizens, surely the conflict would still happen, right? You know, I could sit around creating scenarios where there was never any segregation in Palestine or Israel or however you want to call that area. But in the real world, people are always going to pick a side in the world stage, whether you like it or not. And the only driving force behind this is the bad leaders making all of those mistakes for their own interests, which change over time. And one final note, I'd like to have a look at the most controversial country in particular, with Europe's largest mosque. Oh, I see how it is. So, all in all, I can disprove this conspiracy theory that all immigrants are essentially bad. It's only the systems in place and lack of resources right now to take into account a greater population. From my personal experience, I've walked through many immigrant neighbourhoods as a white man. Yes, a white man, and I've never been attacked. I even knew a Muslim who I went clubbing with, who even smoked marijuana. Clearly these are values that are being enforced into our daily lives right now, as we speak. Do you really think 40-year-old Abdul, who runs the mosque, is going to be like, "Oi, bruv, give me your wallet"? You was getting splashed and chefed. I didn't think so either. They're just normal people trying to get by in this shithole of a country. But of course, you don't speak to these people. You're against them. And this is kind of why you are alienating the Conservative Party or UKIP or whoever you represent from the wider population, and which is why you're probably never going to get extra votes for the party that you support. This will be it for today's video. Let me know if you'd like to see another video that highlights actual solutions to the housing crisis in the UK, and that will be all.